What's up? My name's Ethan.
I'm Ben.
I'm Kabir.
And welcome to My Matters. Today we have a very special episode planned. We're not going to be talking about all these fun things coming up and all these exciting things, but we're actually going to be taking a look into the past and reflecting on our junior year. We took a few weeks off, I think actually a few months off from recording and making episodes, and we'll dive into that. But like I said, today we're just going to be reflecting on that and how tough it's been, but kind of look to the future as well and what we took away from that. So Ben, do you want to start off by just kind of reading our mission statement?
Yeah, of course. Depression, anxiety, or that uneasy, empty, or lonely feeling inside of you is very common and normal amongst high schoolers, but it is not talked about. The goal of this show is to make you feel like your experiences are normal and recognized. We will also give you practical solutions to improve your life. Mind Matters is the only podcast that talks about those ugly feelings from a high school perspective.
So I just want to emphasize, right, by us having this conversation and taking the time to just talk about these different topics, we're hoping that anyone who's listening, we're inspiring you to have that conversation by yourself or just, reflect and have those thoughts by yourself. So that's kind of our goal here. But like I said, today we're reflecting on our junior year. So I'm going to start off by asking you guys, I guess, Kabir, you can go first. What has this year been like for you? Was it easy? Was it hard? What was it like?
Oh, it's definitely been hard. It's been a year of defied expectations. Going into high school as a confident sophomore, right? Going into the summer, I thought that junior year was going to be, relatively difficult, but nothing that complex. But, junior year has challenged me.
Yeah.
There have been added responsibilities to my life. This is a transitional phase towards adulthood, thinking about college, all of that. It's just been really stressful, more than I could have ever anticipated.
Ben, what about you?
Yeah, I've experienced a ton of stress and anxiety, like I always do, I guess, but maybe to a more extreme extent, right? So I think in this kind of transition period in my life, I'm experiencing college stress. What's going to be my next step, and how's that going to lead to my life decisions, while also balancing new responsibilities in my social life? And it's been really hard, with my social anxiety and all of the things that I struggle with to kind of balance this all. And it was a real challenge this year to do all that, and also doing a lot of AP classes and all these things. It was really difficult. Ethan.
The best way to put it, I don't know if you guys have watched the movie Creed or Rocky, but when the boxer gets knocked out and they're on the floor and the count's going 1, 2, 3, and they're the eyes are kind of opening, they're kind of unconscious.
Yeah.
That was me every single day waking up. All I wanted to do was just stay on the ground and accept defeat and just let the count go, right? But every single day, I just got up before the count ended and I just pushed myself. And there are so many days where it's just I truly just wanted to stay in bed. But, I kept going, and it wasn't easy. It was definitely not easy. This year is definitely taking a toll on my physical health, my mental health, my emotional health. I feel like I'm just a new person. It was the first time I got a canker sore because I was sleep deprived, Kabir. I wasn't bio. I was just really grumpy throughout the year. First time I've relied on caffeine. It was definitely a lot of change, but I think, I took a lot away from that. So we're definitely going to reflect on that. So I want to ask you guys, right? So what made junior year hard? We've all said it was difficult, but what specifically made it hard, for someone like you and what you're going through?
Yeah. So for me, being in the classroom every day, I've had, social interactions that haven't gone so well during my first 2 years of high school. But during junior year, I feel like those problems really escalated. One time I was in Chinese class and we had to, recite some packet. And I didn't bring it because I was spending the entire night studying or whatever.
Yeah.
And, I couldn't produce a correct answer in that case because I just didn't have the packet. And suddenly, tons of people who all knew I had social anxiety, they all just started, making fun of me for getting the answer wrong. And, in this competitive space, you're just supposed to take it, right? Otherwise, you look weak. And, that just reinforced my social anxiety because people were just taking advantage of that. So difficult social interactions have definitely escalated and just, kind of made life miserable in the classroom for me.
Ben, what about you? What specifically made this year hard and for your issues?
So yeah, as I've emphasized in previous episodes, I have really bad social anxiety. I've had it my entire life. But I feel like this year, when I had all this work, I felt like I could make up for all these social anxieties and things I was missing out by kind of superficial academic achievements,
Like finding
right?
fulfillment in that.
Yeah,
Right?
like,
Yeah.
you know, get an ACT score. That's going to fix all these
Yeah,
problems.
we know you went crazy over your 36. So like,
Yeah. Thanks, Ethan, for shouting that out.
Yeah, a little
Appreciate
humble
it.
brag. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think kind of chasing those like superficial things to kind of replace like social interaction, and that was kind of a product of my social anxiety. It was really difficult. Like my friends would create plans, like you know, playing poker or doing all these different things, and I have really bad social anxiety, and a lot of times like stopped me from doing that, and I felt like I can make up ground for that with my academic achievements. And when I didn't, in school, because obviously, you know, it's difficult, a lot of these classes, it just felt so much worse and created all this stress.
Mhm.
So I think that was really difficult throughout the year.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't think a lot of people know this, but I do have like obsessive compulsive disorder, and it kind of stems from anxiety. I think for me, you know, we've all said we've taken 4 or 5+ AP classes this year. And I just want to quickly mention as a quick side note, like you're not even allowed to take that many credits in college. Like we're taking more classes, college classes, than we're going to be able to take freshman year of college. So I first think that's crazy, but I think all of that and the amount of work that I had to do combined with my OCD really just slowed me down, and it was just overwhelming. Like I would stay up so late, and again, it was like that Rocky movie scene every single day when I woke up. I just couldn't break that cycle. But what it would basically do, my OCD, is specifically reading. So when it came to like my English assignments and reading, like you remember how ceremony was, like just talking about nature, like I it just didn't interest me. But just going through that with my OCD, and basically what made me do is like reread stuff. I couldn't like be satisfied. I'd always feel like, oh, I was missing something. And like I remember we were reading it during January, February time, right? It was like the deep winter. I think that was definitely my lowest point. But you know, it's June 6th, right? We said this before, like it is the first day of summer. We came out on top. So you know how we said like light at the end of the tunnel? Like, do you guys think your problems or the things you guys were going through, like, did it ever make it seem like, yeah, there's no light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, throughout the year, I mean, I couldn't even imagine this point because it felt like so much work and so many, you know, things to get through. And I remember vividly, like, sitting in my room, like, at night, just with all this schoolwork, like, plans on the weekend, like, that I was nervous about, right? Seeing people and being at these social events, super, anxiety provoking to me. Um, and also, you know, trying to manage, like, extracurriculars and all these things. And I can remember nights like a night in December, like I'm just sitting there and I'm like almost in this like paralyzing fear and anxiety almost of like all these things that are going on and trying to balance it. And in those moments, this June 6th date, right, coming out of it didn't even feel remotely not necessarily possible. I just couldn't even conceive it because it felt like, how am I going to do this every single weekend, suffering, you know, through all of this? And you know, somehow I'm here, I guess, but it for a lot of points, it did not, you know, seem almost conceivable.
Yeah, for me, that darkness was readily apparent for most of the year, actually. You know, especially during the winter, we were completely drowned in work
Yeah.
in academy. That's a particular program at our school. But that, you know, doing a lot of work for that and, you know, having to manage a bunch of extracurricular activities, as Ben was saying, you know, I had to do this project, right? And, you know, basically the grade was hinging on it, and a lot of different things like that, because you know it just creates so much anxiety, and it's just nobody talks about how, you know, draining that is on a day-to-day basis, right? How it just, you know, that paralyzing fear and decision paralysis, like where do I even start on stuff like this? And you know, being in a pivotal position in our lives where like college is just around the corner, it just like elevates that anxiety so much more.
Yeah, and I also want to point out what Ethan said was really interesting about, you know, his OCD, right?
Yeah.
This, people talk about junior year as being like this kind of end all be all big thing. It kind of decides everything, the most important for college admissions, all these things happening, right? And if you're struggling with that, it makes it so much harder because all these things are happening. It's so big and everything, you know, has to be perfect and all of these things. It makes it very hard. And I think a lot of people don't realize that and experience that. And I think that's something I could have done better is, you know, focusing more on like little moments and not trying to, you know, push everything together and make it seem bigger than it is.
Yeah, and I just want to add on to that. Like, I know you guys know the term like imposter syndrome. I feel like everyone has their own problems, right? It may not be depression, it may not be OCD, it might be something a little bit less, you know, that takes less of a toll on their mental health, but everyone still has things that they go through, whether it be family problems, friends problems, whatever, right? On a day-to-day basis. And just because you think, oh, I'm just really in the thick of it right now and I'm just being drained by my OCD or my social anxiety, right? Like, don't ever feel like you're the only one who's just like, okay, I have junior year and this, right? Like, I have another problem that I have to deal with. Like, everyone has their own things that they go through. I think that's really important. But I think in terms of like what we want, right, to share in terms of like our own problems, like, I think like it's impossible to avoid the fact like if you are going through something like this, and junior year's approaching, like, let me ask you guys, like, can you get around it? Like, if you want to get straight A's, like, is there any way to just cheat the system?
No, there's no way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's no way to cheat the system.
Well, okay, so there's a difference between, cheating the system to like, technically, I guess you could take shortcuts to get A's, but the reality is like a lot of the time, if you're doing that, if you're just like scraping, like doing it last minute, like cramming, really is that adding value to
Yeah, it's
anything?
adding stress,
Like
yeah.
it's
Yeah,
just,
but I feel like more so like, can you avoid junior year? Like, you can't.
Yeah, no.
No.
It's coming.
Yeah, that's the point. He's got.
It's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
big,
avoid it.
it's a
Yeah.
big block that's just like, envision like a big like, what is like the construction blocks that block off the roads. Like, it's
Yeah.
coming towards you.
Yeah.
You can't go around
Can't
it.
avoid it. Yeah.
And your only option is to go through it. And I feel like the quicker you understand that and kind of let sink in, the easier you can go through it. And like I said, you're gonna have those days where you just sit in bed and you're like, can I get up? Can I do it? Can I do it? But like, it's June 6th for us. Did we get through it? Did we think February 2nd we were going to get to this point? Like, I didn't think so. But hey, look, we're here, right? So
Yeah.
time is always moving. These months will keep going, right? And it's up to you whether you just want to give up and let the block smash you, as cringy as that sounds, or just
Yeah.
like power through, because you're
Mhm.
going to get to this point. You're going to come out on top if you just go through it.
Yeah, and obviously it's difficult, right? But everybody gets through it, and that kind of leads me, and that was a really good point, Ethan. That kind of leads me to another discussion and kind of comparing junior year and what it means over time, right?
Yeah.
Like for our parents, it was so much different, and for people like us with anxiety and OCD and all these things that we struggle with, it's much more difficult now, I feel, because of things like, social media. Everyone's kind of interacting and everyone's kind of putting on this like performance of how great everything is. But when you feel, like you're a little, maybe a bit more awkward, like social anxiety, with OCD, like everything like has to be perfect. It's very hard to kind of participate in this like performative society on social media where everything is perfect. And I think that kind of amplifies the struggle that people feel. Do you guys have any experiences with that?
Yes, I do, for sure. Like seeing things online, like going on LinkedIn, even just like seeing how people do certain things, or they're bragging about their achievements, right? And it's definitely great to celebrate that, but it just makes you feel like you're doing something wrong, right? In my experience, like I've seen posts where people, they just completed like this major internship. I've seen like even my own classmates in those kinds of things, and it just makes you feel like, am I even doing, like, am I using my time appropriately? And the reality is, like, your journey is a lot different from those people's journeys, and you can't really measure that in terms of high school achievements, right? Life takes its course no matter what.
Yeah, and I keep on going back to Ethan. His experiences are it's worthwhile because his experiences, right, are very
Yeah.
good. Like with your OCD, like can you kind of speak to how it makes you feel when you see all these people doing like these things, and you kind of feel
So
like
I think-
you have
yeah.
to make up. You know what I mean?
A
Yeah.
good way to put it is like, I'll ask kids like, how long did that 8-push ring take you, right? Like, like that took me like 2.5 hours, right? Like that took you that much time. And they'll look at me like, dude, I did that 30 minutes during lunch when I was talking with my friends. It's like, oh yeah, that makes me feel great. But it's
Yeah,
like,
right.
but then let's say I asked Ben, like, hey Ben, did you or like one of you guys, I don't know, like in a social situation where I thought something was really easy, like, yeah, I just raised my hand. Yeah, like, what do you mean? But like for you guys, it might be a little difficult. Like, yeah, maybe I didn't feel comfortable sharing. So like, it's like a give and take. Like you can find something for me and I can find something for you. And I feel like that's as that kind of sounds a little, I don't know, like cringy, I guess. Like you're trying to, everyone has their own weaknesses, but like truly, like you can find something about everyone else. Everyone has their own downfalls. So don't ever feel like you're the only one who has to have to go through these A-push readings when someone else might be too scared to raise their hand in signs to when they get called on, when they get asked, like, I don't know, like what's cellular respiration. I don't know, right? Just understand that, right? That's kind of the point I want to drive home.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing point, and like I said, the mission statement, like it's so normal to feel these things, right? And I think that's actually a really good point. Like with my anxiety, I might not speak out and say like, oh yeah, I'm experiencing that too, but it's very real, and most people do, right? Not everybody is the person who's gonna like brag and say, oh, I did the reading so short. Everybody has their own things that make things more difficult. Everybody has their knacks and things that make things, more easy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And all that just goes to show that high school, or at least, being around our peers, it's all about putting on a performance, right? People
like
just
a costume. Yeah.
People just love to say how easily they could get things done because it just makes them seem like so effortless. So,
like junior year,
whatever.
what? Dude, that's so easy.
Here's an interesting exercise. Have you, even us, Kabir, have you ever like exaggerated anything to try to maybe in a performative way to make yourself look better?
For sure.
Ethan?
100%.
Yeah, we all do this all the time, right? Like, don't feel like you're the only one who is experiencing these things. Everybody in some ways, and obviously this is caused a lot by our society. Maybe it wasn't the same way like 15, 20 years ago, but everybody is putting on a show. So you can't believe all these things that everybody is saying. There are people who are experiencing what you are experiencing.
Exactly. It's about compensating, right? If you're experiencing, if you're not happy with one part of your life, you might try to like exaggerate to make it seem like, oh, it's going so perfectly fine, right? Oh, I'm so nonchalant or effortless or whatever, right? But in reality, those struggles are way more common than you think, right? And everyone goes through something like that. And, performance is a lot of people's way to kind of cope with that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So I kind of want to kind of shift the conversation. We're talking a lot about our problems, other people's problems, but like we said, I think going forward, a good breakup of the episode should be like maybe 30% talking about the negative aspects and then diving into giving people positive things to look at, like some type of hope, right? So I just want to ask you guys a question, right? Do you have any advice? What would you tell your pre-junior year self, considering everything you were going through, all these challenges you had, all the coursework, anything? What would you tell your pre-junior self?
That's a really interesting question, and I feel like I've changed so much this year, really. But I would tell myself that, again, like I said, everybody has these problems and is experiencing these problems. But for me, a lot of the times it goes back to, social situations, right? I'm a person, I know Kabir is a person who kind of is in these like big events that happen when, people get more freedom in junior year. You can drive everywhere, people are hanging out, all these things, right? And that makes me very uncomfortable. But I would tell myself that there will be opportunities to kind of develop one-on-one relationships with people that fulfill you, and it's going to work out in that way, right? I have great friends sitting with me right here, right?
Yep.
And I have these people that I've been able to develop relationships with, and that's what's important. So if you're suffering like me with very, very bad social anxiety and all these things, and you feel like you're being left out at parties, just know that there are people out there for you, right? It's us, right? There are people like us that are out there for you, and developing those relationships is really important.
Mm-hmm. Go.
For me, like, one of the biggest pitfalls that I experienced this year was constantly comparing my journey to everyone else's, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In this environment, right? Like people talk, right? People talk about their various extracurricular endeavors or whatnot. Like, oh, I just finished this biological medical internship, and it's like, wow, that sounds so impressive, right?
Yeah.
What am I doing? I'm doing some silly activity, right? Like, oh, I'm not good enough, right? I constantly felt that, right? Constantly, every single day through like most of my classes, people just talk about that, and that kind of goes towards the performance part too, right? But in reality, like everyone, you can like time doesn't end with college, right? You have forever, basically. You can do stuff for the rest of your life, and high school is a pivotal moment. But I would say to pre-juniors, don't act as if, high school is the end all be all, right? There are opportunities beyond that.
Mhm. So I think one piece of advice, I just want to be real. Like, we have a planning doc, but I just came up with this. It's kind of out of the box, but I just want like someone to think. I just want, if you're listening, to think of like a road, right? And whatever road, just think of a road in your town, right? So if I ask you guys right now, Kabir, what road did you just think of?
Landwehr.
I thought of Willow Road.
So 2 different roads, right? It's kind of cringy, but right, if you ask everyone, right, you ask that question, they probably thought of different roads. So I just want you to envision you at the start of that road, you're looking down, right? And at the end of the day, it's how far you went down that road. And think about the other side of that road. Picture that being your end goal. So for me, that's becoming a doctor, being someone who's a service to others. That's my life goal. Like, what are yours?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Ethan, right? Ethan has it all figured out, right? Maybe me and Kabir don't have it figured out as much, but yeah.
Well, like, what's the person you want to be at the end of that road?
I want to be somebody who's making change through technology and math.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, I'm also very interested in mathematics, and I was thinking to go on more of an economic route, but ultimately, something that involves.
So I want to ask you guys, like,
right?
Putting aside the career, what are some attributes you want to have? Do you want to be kind? Do you want to be someone who does a lot of service? Like, what are those attributes you want to have?
Yeah, I want to be someone who creates, change and innovation and is kind, like you said. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I want to, maintain kind of a sense of curiosity my entire life and just keep that, learning. That's part of why I love math so much, because there's always so much to learn.
And I want to add this. I know this is a lot, but like, envision, like, where do you see yourself living?
Yeah.
Your house, your family. Like, Ben, I'm curious.
Yeah.
Like, where do you want to settle down?
Let's just plan out our whole life. Let's do a new segment, right?
No, I'll
yeah,
tie it back. I'll tie it back.
Yeah, I mean, I see myself, I don't know, living, a nice life, a normal life.
Hopefully
right.
in a big house.
Yeah, hopefully,
right?
Kabir,
yeah.
Yeah, I think we all have this vision of ourselves in like some amount of prosperity, right? Like that's the end goal.
Yeah.
Right?
So my point is, picture yourself right on Landwehr or whatever road you said, Technique.
Well,
you're on one Willow. You're on one side, and that person you want to be is on the other side. I think that should be the way you get up every single day when that count is going. You're thinking about that.
He's talking about the movie Creed.
Yes.
Again, if you know.
So you're at one side of the road, and the dream person you want to become at the end of your life is on the other side of the road. What is the point of focusing on Landwehr when your road is Willow, right?
Yeah.
What is the point of focusing on all these different roads when you didn't even think of that? You didn't even think of Willow because the only thing you know is Landwehr, right? So just imagine yourself. This is my biggest piece of advice. Block out all those roads and just be zeroed in on your own respective road where you want to be at the other side. And if you got at least an inch closer at the end of the day when you look at yourself in the mirror, I think that's a win. So remember that in junior year, right? If you just got 1 inch closer on Landwehr, who cares if Kabir got 10 feet closer on Willow? It's not your road. Focus on yours.
Exactly. That's a really clever point. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. And
So-
I think that also, it ties into the idea that, stop comparing your path in life to everyone else's, right? Every day you hear about that stuff, you hear about what other people are doing, and, going 10 feet on one road might not even be the same as going like an inch on another road.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. You just don't know because it's not yours. So
Yeah.
just zero in on your road, no one else's. And I feel like as long as you get a little bit closer every single day, that's a win.
Yeah, and to kind of finish out this episode, right? We've talked a lot about kind of the pitfalls of junior year, how that's affected us with all of our struggles, and kind of giving advice. But I think it'd be cool to say, like, in lieu of all of this, what is like one thing you've accomplished? What's one thing you've made progress in this year that you're proud of? Any of you can start first.
All right. I just need a second to think.
Yeah,
I think a moment of silence. is fine.
I would say I think my ability to communicate
Yeah,
has
it's
gotten
good.
a lot better. As a sophomore, I definitely did not, interact with people on a daily basis as much as I have this year. I've met so many new people, right? Like you guys, I've known Ben since freshman year, but Ethan, I met him during junior year in bio. And, he's just taught me so much about communication, and, I haven't always
Thank
been
you.
the best at that, right?
Yeah.
But, I think I've pretty much, I've grown a lot in that capacity since the start of the year. I think that's my single biggest accomplishment.
Mhm.
Yeah. For me, it's really about kind of confidence in myself and believing in myself, right? Now, I've kind of a broken record talking about all these like social events, everything that's going on, right? Just as kind of like this mantra, like it's going to be okay, right? I'm gonna figure it out. I always do, right? Like I'm a
Mm-hmm.
good person at heart, and I think recognizing it's like life is sort of like a give and take, Ethan. Like you said,
Exactly.
like I just want to establish relationships with people and kind of just do the right thing and establish a rhythm, right? I think I've gotten better at that this year and more confident in doing that this year, and I think that's really been beneficial to me, and I'm proud of that as well. And again, I'm not perfect. We talk about all these
Yeah.
things, but I think that's
Mhm.
something that's good. Ethan, go ahead.
So for me, I think what I've kind of accomplished, there's a lot of good things, a lot of bad things, but one thing I'm most proud of is I think I've been much more open about what I want to do, and I'm not just doing stuff because other people are telling me to do this. So I'll give a few examples. Like my family, they know how much I've been through this year, and I'm so open about it. They're like, "Wow, like, can you tone it down a little bit?" Like,
Yeah.
I'm almost making it seem like it's just about me, right? But I'm more open with my family. I'm more open with you guys. I'm kind of just doing things that I want to do. Like something that, just a specific example is, I like stepped away from baseball. I think like midway through the season, it was hard, but I just told my coach like, this is how I feel. Like I've been playing this game. I feel like and I just don't want to. I was open about it. Like I'm going through a lot, and I'm gonna step away. And it was really hard, right? I left all my teammates, but I'm just becoming the person who's more open and doing stuff because they want to do it, and not other people telling them they should do it. So that's what I think is my biggest accomplishment. But we always like to end things with the big picture. So what are some, junior year, whatever? Let's zoom out in the grand scheme of things. What can you take away?
So I think for me, junior year, I learned, as I said, obviously a lot about myself, right? And this kind of goes back to what I've accomplished, what I thought I've accomplished, right? Like just believing in myself, believing in the process, believing in the right things, okay?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, again, we're not all like Ethan. We don't have it all, exactly what we want to be, but I know I said I want to be involved in innovation, technology, all these things. So I think I learned about myself through junior year that I'm capable of doing that. It's just about, believing in myself and fostering relationships with people and kind of just doing the right thing, right? And not getting caught up in making everything too big or too small.
Perfect.
For me, I think one of the biggest lessons, like big picture lessons that junior year taught me was make sure you're doing stuff for all the right reasons, right? It's easy to get caught up in all these extracurriculars, like, oh, someone's doing this, therefore I should do the same thing, right?
Mm.
I should schedule an internship or whatnot. But really, the reason you're doing all of this is to pave like a better future for yourself, right? And that future is going to look very different from everyone else's, and so you have to make sure that what you're doing aligns with that, and not just you're
Like,
not basing your life on someone else's
like
vision.
your why, right?
Yeah,
Finding
Yeah,
your
find
exactly.
your
why.
why. We
Yeah.
say that a lot.
Yeah, like finding why you're living life. It's very like, abstract. Like, well, that hurts my brain, but like truly find that and just pursue that no matter what. So my big picture thing is, I kind of just said it, like finding your why. For me, I want to be a doctor because I feel like that's the dream job. So every single day I would try to just remind myself, you're not doing all these readings and homework assignments and extracurriculars because just to do it, you're doing it to get to that part, get to the end of the road,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So just keep that in mind. And we don't usually do this. I'm just going to do this. You guys don't have to follow, but I just want to give a quick like call to action or something simple you can do. So for me, what I'm doing right now is it's summer, right? And I'm coming off this really brutal year. I feel like I'm not really myself. I'm trying to heal and become myself again. Set a little mantra for yourself. Like, what are you going to remind yourself? Like, if you're scared to raise your hand, if you're scared to go into a social situation, or you're scared to read a book because of your OCD or whatever problem you have, make a mantra for yourself. So do you know what mine is? It's make the change. Make the change. Like if it's reading, whatever, be that person you want to be. Tell yourself that mantra. If you have social anxiety, right before you go into this big public space, make the change. This is the person I want to be at the end of this road. I'm going to get there. I'm making the change. So
Yeah.
that's my call to action, I guess.
For me, I think a good motivating thing for me, this kind of ties in, is like get a little success, right? Tiny steps, right? Just little improvements. I think that's most helpful for me. Kabir?
Yeah, for me, I think the biggest thing is to like put yourself in the mindset of change, right? You're not gonna make any progress if you're just stuck in the same, kind of regressive attitude. You have to actually convince yourself, even if it's not who you currently are. It's kind of like fake it till you make it, right? There's a certain element of, you have to suspend your faith in order to achieve change, right? To move on from one state of your life to another, there has to be some sort of, leap forward. And I think doing that, the mantra was a great way of putting it, right?
It could be anything. Make a change. You got this.
Exactly,
whatever.
Right?
Yeah. And yeah, we can wrap it up, I guess, talking about like a few announcements, right?
Yeah.
Social media.
So, can I go?
Yeah.
So, we have a website, www.mindmatterspodcast.net. On this website, we have all the links to our socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all these things, right? And the purpose of our show, as we say, is to kind of destigmatize and raise awareness about the tremendous pain that people are feeling with mental health issues and that we are feeling as well, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So, you don't have to, but if you want to, go check out our Instagram, check out our Facebook. It really helps, drive it up the algorithms, right? To try and help as many people as we can. So check that out. All of our usernames on socials are mindmatters_, like FB for Facebook, X for, I guess, X for X, but X for Twitter.
Yeah, but an easy way to just find all of that is go to mindmatterspodcast.net, right?
Exactly.
Just type that in and you can scroll down and you'll find all of our socials. Coming up, we have a bunch of stuff planned. A bunch of different people are going to interview some topics we just want to discuss. So be on the lookout for that. I think this summer is going to be a lot, right? We're going to allocate a lot of time for this. And we're just truly trying to make as much content as possible and really reach as many people as possible. So I just want to leave you with one thing. I know this is kind of cringy again, but like whatever you're going through, whatever problems you may have, just think to yourself, again, if you're on that road or you're on that journey, would it really be fulfilling if you got to the end and the road was 1 inch and all you have to do was walk 1 step? No. If your road is 100 miles and you get to the end, that's more fulfilling. So don't think because you have more setbacks, because you have more problems, it's impossible. If you actually get to the end, it's more fulfilling and you're going to find more enjoyment, satisfaction than other people who maybe just made it seem like life was so easy, but their road was only 1 foot.
Yeah.
Just remember that.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, be on the lookout for our next episode. Should be coming out next week. We're going to try to push out at least 2 a week in addition to the special episodes where we interview people. But just be on the lookout for that. My name's Ethan.
I'm Ben.
I'm Kabir.
And just remember, your mind matters.